Hi everybody and very welcome to yet another live stream, and I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic out there as always. So let's see, who do we have here? We have Joan, Captain Jelte. Good to see you all here. I hope you can all see and hear me as always. Just let me know if there's anything wrong with the sound or anything wrong with the picture. So guys, first of all, before we get going, I just wanted to know what you think about my new Mentour Aviation app. I am working my buttocks off to try to do it as good as possible for you guys. That's why I keep changing things. I know there's been a couple of small bugs that we are sorting out. As soon as we get the feedback from you guys, we are trying to fix it. Now, when it comes to this live stream, guys, I will be taking questions both from you here on the chat and in the chat in the Mentour Aviation app. So if you have the app, you can send in the questions there or here in the chat. And if you have something really important that you really want me to answer, then you can use the super chat thing, because that will highlight the message for me and I will see a list of those questions so I can actually answer all of those. Right, so let's start this thing off. How are you all doing out there? Just tell me. Afro Ninja, thanks. Great to hear that you like the app. Remember, guys, as well, that if you have the app, go into App Store and give it a good grading, because it really helps. Especially if you're in Spain, for example, because we have very few ratings from there. We have a few from the UK and from the United States, which is great to see. All the other countries needs to put in more reviews so that it actually turns up on the App Store. Good to hear, Aman. Right, let's see. Do we have any questions here? Has anyone had any questions about the setup, for example? If you go into a little bit more technical questions about the 737. So the full setup playlist is now available. I've added in all my videos in there. For a couple of days, I will sell every video that is on the app inside of that playlist. If you get that, and the engine failure ones. Albert, what's the difference between crosswind landings and crab landings? Well, actually, a crab landing is just a version of a crosswind landing. There are a couple of different ways that you can do crosswind landings. You can do what's called D-crab in the flare, which is when you're coming in with an angle towards the runway, and just during the flare you kick up a little bit of rudder and you touch down. And then you can land with a crab as well, which is something we do in extreme crosswinds, and especially if the runway is a little bit wet. Then we just maintain the crab down and we actually land a little bit in a crab angle like this. The landing gear is fully capable of taking that. Okay. More questions here. I hear the 737 is extremely overpowered and this can cause a few TCAS warnings. Yeah, well, it's not overpowered because it is perfectly powered when it is quite fully loaded. When it has a lot of fuel and a lot of passengers, it has the right amount of thrust. However, if you're doing short flights, for example, and you don't have that much fuel on board, or you don't have that many passengers, then yes, then it is quite a lot of power in it, which is why we always monitor our climb and descent rate during the last 3,000 feet. So when we have 3,000 feet to go to our assigned altitude, we reduce the vertical speed to a maximum of 3,000 feet. At 2,000 feet to go, we reduce it to 2,000 feet per minute, and at 1,000 feet to go, we reduce it to 1,000 feet per minute. And all of that we do in order to avoid these TCAS warnings in busy TMAs, like the London TMA. By the way, guys, if you hear any noises and stuff, I've actually kind of taken over a part of the restaurant here in Hilton, so there's still people around me that are looking funny at me at the moment. You might hear some sounds, right? Fry 189, how to learn English. Yeah, what you do basically is you get yourself subjected to English as much as possible. And what I mean by that is try to watch videos, try to watch TV without getting it dubbed. Make sure that it's just subtitled, and try to speak English as much as possible. Go into YouTube, watch things that you think are interesting, and just subject yourself to as much English as possible to start with. And then it's a good idea if you can kind of maybe move to an English-speaking country for a couple of months. Maybe take a job somewhere as a waiter or something like that, and that will really increase your English knowledge in a good way. And of course, go to take lessons and study. It's always a good thing. So, hi Mentor, can you tell us how you are delivering new aircraft from factory? Yes, actually I can. So the new aircraft that are being made by Boeing or Airbus, they go through a number of flight tests first. When they come out of factory, they do a number of flight tests with the Boeing test pilots first to make sure that all the systems are working properly and stuff. And that takes a couple of weeks, okay? And then after that, there are normally test pilots from the airline that are coming in, and they're basically doing the same test battery again, so that the customer can verify that the quality of the aircraft is what it's supposed to be. And they also look for things like making sure that the paint job is correct, that all the fittings inside are correct, and so on. Once the test pilots have tried out the aircraft and they're happy with it, we go through the whole test battery, then a delivery pilot, or 2 delivery pilots, will turn up and actually deliver the aircraft from factory to where it's going. That's normally you go to the factory or to the Boeing field. You have dinner with the people that are delivering the aircraft. You go through a flight briefing for the route that you're going to fly with the dispatcher that is specifically working for you. Then you go out, you have your own gate, it's just you and the other pilot, walk out there, and they normally fit the aircraft up full of food and drinks and stuff like that. And then you take the aircraft and you fly. So that's how we do it. Then depending on where you're going, it might be a really long flight. When I did my delivery, it took about 10 hours to do. It was one of the most enjoyable flights that I've done in my entire career. So we see that Cesax has added a little bit to the super chat, but you haven't asked any question, which is if you have a question, Cesax, since you have added it onto the super chat, just tell me and I will try to answer it for you. Thank you very much for supporting. Oh, by the way, if you guys have the app now, if you have the Mentour Aviation app, you can actually go into the app now and you can see this live stream inside of the app. Okay, this is something that we're working on. I'm trying to make live streaming possible inside of the app, and apparently my developers has just managed to make this live stream for iOS users. Those of you who have iPhones, iOS users, you can see this stream live now, but Android users cannot yet. So this is just a test function. You can go in and have a look if you want to. All right, but this kind of shows a little bit where I'm going with the app. I want to make this even more entertaining for you guys and more interactive, because I really love interacting with you guys. More questions. So, hello Mentor, what did you think about the landings in Storm Doris? Yeah, that was a very challenging and extremely challenging conditions. Okay, I think the guys did a wonderful job, since we didn't have any kind of serious incidents happening during it. They did a great job under really challenging conditions, and it just goes to show that this job can be really easy some days and it can be really, really hard some days, guys, and this is why we train. Okay. Mike, what do you like most about the 737? I like the fact that it's old school. I like the fact that you have a throttle that actually moves when the outer throttle is moving it, so you get some tactile feedback. I like the fact that you have a big nice joke that you can move around, and it feels like old school flying. So I like it for its relative simplicity and its old school fashion. Right? It's a great aircraft to fly. Did you see, so Kay Dunn, did you see the video about the circular runway? What did you think? I actually talked about this in my previous live stream as well, guys, the one that I did on Facebook. Basically, that circular runway thing that is going viral on internet at the moment, it's only cool if you don't really know what aviation is about, okay? It's a great, first of all, I want to say that I really like when people think outside of the box. Just because something has looked the same way for decades, it doesn't mean that it's the best way of doing it. So it's always good when you have people that are willing to look outside of the box and just go for new ideas. However, when it comes to designing runways, there are a forest out there with rules and regulations. Okay, for example, you have to have when you have a runway, you calculate the trajectory the aircraft is going to fly off the runway, and you have to have a certain amount of clearance to obstacles, so obstacle clearance. That obstacle clearance is very, very, it's quite big in a straight line, and then it kind of tapers off on the sides so that you have kind of a funnel going where there cannot be any kind of obstacles. Now, if you're going to do that with a circular runway that you're intending to take off in any direction from, it means that you are going to have that minimum, or the the minimum amount of obstacles in all directions, 360 degrees around the runway, which of course is not possible. Add to that the fact that you normally, when we do approaches, we need to see approach lights when we get down. Now, approach lights, unless you're going to have approach lights extending about 750 meters out from the circular runway in every direction, it's going to be very hard to do. On top of that, when we do takeoffs, we like to have the crosswind coming from more or less constant angle. If you're doing a takeoff from a circular runway, you're going to have a constantly changing wind, and it's going to be very, very hard to calculate your performance based on the wind that is coming from the side in the beginning and from the front at the end of the takeoff. So as you can see, there are, and this is just scratching the surface of all the problems that you might have with a circular runway. So I hope that answers your question. Breitling71, tjena, kul! Kul att ha dig här. More questions then. Mr. Shark for life, do you need to buy a pilot headset or the company gives it to you? Well, this depends on which company you're working for and also what kind of aircraft you fly. Some of the newer aircraft, they don't really need headsets for big part of the flights, so you can go with a very simple headset. But to answer your question, legally, the airline have to supply you with a headset. Okay, so there will be a headset in the aircraft that you're flying. However, the headset might be of a fairly low quality. Okay, so if you want to use one of those telex headsets and listen, like this every time there's a radio call, you can use those. I prefer to buy my own headset. That's what I did because I want to make sure that I am protecting my hearing. And I want to make sure that I don't have to strain my ears to hear what ATC is telling me. So in order to do that, I want the absolute best headsets, which you of course have to buy yourself. More questions. Man, there's a lot of questions here. Like you see, guys, I don't have time to answer all of these questions. So if you have a really important one, then just send it into the super chat and I will be able to see it immediately. Fry189, thank you. Where better to go, to Canada or to the US if I live in Eastern Europe? Well, first of all, I have to ask why you don't just do your training in Eastern Europe if you live there, because there's quite a lot of good quality flight schools for very little money in Eastern Europe at the moment. So you would, look that up first of all. Otherwise, I think Canada is a beautiful country. I would love to go up to the northern parts of Canada. I've been skiing there before, beautiful. But I do think that there's quite a lot more flight schools available in the US, so there's probably more competition, which means that the prices are probably better. Okay, that's my 2 cents anyway. Mads Cirkelsen, hi, if you take your PPL early and you want to continue with ATPL later, what would be a solution? Well, you don't need a solution. You can sit with your PPL and you can start with your ATPLs whenever you want. However, when you have set your ATPLs, then you have a limited amount of time for you to actually get your CPL, right? So take your PPL, build up hours. When you're ready to go for the commercial pilot license, then you do your CPLs and you do your ATPL exams and you go for it. And I wish you the absolute best luck because we do need every single one of you up there very soon. Max Savage, yes. Hi, Mentor Pilot. I'm heading off to New Zealand for my flight training and I will be away from my family for a year. Do you have any tips for being away from family during your training? It's hard to be away from your family. It's as easy as that. You will miss the support and stuff that you get from them. However, it is a limited amount of time. So with the kind of technology we have nowadays, with Skype and with FaceTime and things like that, it doesn't feel like you're really that far away, and you will be able to go and visit them, I guess, during this year. They will, if you're going to New Zealand, which is extremely cool, they will probably try to come and visit you. So just remember when it feels hard that it's a limited amount of time, it will be over soon, and just enjoy it while you're doing it. Take some questions here from the chat inside of the Mentour Aviation app as well. Would you recommend training overseas if you have the chance? By that I guess you mean that you're in Europe and you're thinking about going to the States. And I've said this before, there's a lot of really good flight schools in the US. However, if you are intending to come back to fly in Europe later on, you are going to have to convert your licenses, unless you're going for a school that actually teaches EASA or does the EASA training in the US. There are a few of those as well. So you have to factor that into the costs. So make sure that you go and you check with the flight school in Europe what a conversion would cost and count that into the final price before you go there. Okay, that is one of the suggestions I would make. Luke Picton also asked a question on the chat inside of the app here. In which conditions would you not fly at all? Yeah, we have certain conditions where you wouldn't fly at all. So for example, when the winds are over 60 knots, then we don't move. So with extreme winds, then we do not move the aircraft for safety. And then of course you have like very, very severe weather conditions, like really heavy snow, freezing rain, heavy freezing rain we can't move in, things like that. But in most conditions we can actually fly. So, more questions. Did you have good grades in school? Yes, I had very good grades in school actually, and the reason for that was that I knew that I needed to have good grades in school in order for me to get in or have a chance to get in for an interview in the government-sponsored program in Sweden. So I knew from 14 years of age that unless I had perfect grades in school, I wasn't sure that I was going to get into an interview into that school. So I worked my butt off until I achieved those grades. And that just goes, I was an average student until I found the goal. Okay, when I found the goal, it meant that I had something to pinpoint on. It meant that I knew that those long, hard days you spend or nights that you spend in your room studying for an exam, you do that for a reason. Even subjects that you don't really think are that interesting suddenly becomes really important, because you realize that your grades in those subjects might determine if you have a chance to get into the school you want or not. And when you see that, it's much easier to study. So remember that, guys. You want to have as good grades as possible. Find yourself a goal and stick to it. That's really, really important. Zinedine, inside of the app here, are you given a guaranteed salary or given a base salary with an hourly rate at low-cost airlines? Yeah, so there are as many different contracts as almost as there are, definitely as there are low-cost airlines, and inside of some of those low-cost airlines, there are also different contracts. So some people are directly employed by the airline, like me. You have a basic salary, and you have a hourly rate as well on top of that. So basic salary, and then as much as if you work more, you will earn more. And then you'll have some contracts that are based on your planned block hours, and they normally have a minimum amount of hours that they guarantee, so that you're guaranteed to fly maybe, I don't know, 35 hours or something a month. And if you fly more, if you fly that or less, then you'll get for 35, and if you fly more than that, you'll obviously get more than that. So I'm not going to go into the exact hourly rates, because frankly I don't really know, and I don't really want to talk about different terms and conditions without knowing what I'm talking about. So I hope that. So, Sisek Sirak has gone in again onto the super chat. Fantastic. Actually, that question, how are you delivering new aircraft? I answered that in the beginning of this live stream. So, like I said, you go to the aircraft has to go through a test battery first by both the Boeing pilots and the pilots of the airline that is supposed to take on the new aircraft, and then they send a crew that picks up the aircraft. They normally go over there, they sleep in the States, in Seattle for example, they pick up the aircraft from the factory, and then they deliver it home to wherever they're going, which is a fantastic thing to do. I really, really recommend it if you ever have a chance to do so. More questions. Hello Mentor, have you ever landed in a serious storm? Yes, I have actually. That, obviously they were within the wind limits, but they were, I've been landing in well up towards 45, 50 knots with gusty winds and stuff like that. And normally those are the most fun. Maybe not with those kind of conditions, but just below that, it's the most fun flying you do, because you really have to concentrate and you really have to kind of wrestle the beast down and put it where it's supposed to be, as opposed to when you do a normal landing in almost no wind, where the aircraft kind of sits nicely following the glide slope down, and you only have to do very small corrections to it. So it's much more interesting to do it when it's a little bit windy outside. Captain Jelte, do you have a wife, and does she have a job like pilot or stewardess? I do have a wife, and I have 2 little sons. She was a flight attendant. That's how we met back in the day. She was based in the base that I got based into. That's how we met, and it tends to happen like that. Just like you tend to hook up with people that you work with. If you're if you work in a hospital, you tend to meet people there. If you job in a bank, you're going to meet people there. So this thing that pilots hooks up with flight attendants is natural, because you are maybe on a different roster than everyone else. Your Wednesday might be your first day off, so that's the time that you can go out and have fun. And that might be the same case for the flight attendants, for example. So it's common that happens, but that was the case for me. The fellows, could you tell me the average ratio of auto versus manual landings? Yeah, we do manual landings almost all the time. Auto lands, we only do that maybe, I would say, 2-3% of the landings, because it actually uses more runway. When you do an auto land, you actually need to add another 140 meters onto your landing distance, because the aircraft will start flaring at 50 feet, and it will do that no matter what. And it eats up quite a lot of runway doing that, while we start our flare maybe at 25-30 feet or so, so we tend to touch down earlier. And the aircraft is just not as good at landing. It's as easy as that. It lands just like like you would expect a robot to land. Dut, dut, dut. While we kind of have, at least we should have, a little bit of feeling when we do so. John Schumacher, could you explain what airspace classes are? Yeah, well, I can give it a try. I'm not going to go into the specifics of it, but basically you have airspace classes that are built around airports, for example, where you tend to have controlled airspace close to the airport, which is normally class Charlie, it's called, and the different airspace classes are differently controlled. So while the lower airspace classes, like G for example, have almost no separation done by air traffic control, the more controlled the airspaces become, the more separation rules there are, the more separation and help you might get by air traffic control. So Charlie, for example, is really controlled. They provide separation between aircraft and aircraft and aircraft and aircraft and ground, obviously, so terrain, things like that. And then you will go down to Bravo, Charlie Delta, Echo, where we start to get into uncontrolled airspace. Fox Golf is uncontrolled airspace completely, and it kind of goes down the amount of help you can expect from air traffic control in the lower airspaces. So I can do a video on that if you want, but right now that's the best explanation I can give you. Jake Sharp, do pilots pay for accommodation when working? Also, depending on your contract. So you might be, what's becoming very common in the low-fare airlines and also in the normal airlines now is that you're employed like a contractor, okay? And you're basically self-employed, which means that you have your own company, and that company will then have to stand for example, accommodation, which means that you should get more money. Okay, the company normally pays you a higher hourly rate, and from that money you should be able to pay for your accommodation, for your licenses, for basically everything. Okay, that's the idea. If you are employed by the airline like I am, then the company tends to stand for the accommodation. So, it's more complex than just yes or no. Right, more questions. Let's see. I'm going to go into the app. By the way, have you guys tried out, if you have the iOS app, can you go in and check if the live stream is working like it should? Cool. So I see that quite a few people inside of the chat is checking out the live stream as well. I hope it's working for iOS. This is the first time we're trying this out, and we're constantly building on the Mentour Aviation app. I'm preparing 2 new free YouTube-based playlists that's going to probably come towards the end of the week, and then I am obviously waiting for you guys basically to send in feedback what you would like me to do more training videos on. Would you like me to do more training videos on failures, for example? Well, then tell me. Go into my Facebook page, send me a private message, and tell me what you would like me to do on, because I try to teach you everything that I know. Right, cool. So more questions here from Bob Ross. Isn't it enough to have a big yoke in front of you all the time where you're in the plane? Annoying. Isn't it annoying to have a big yoke in front? No. I mean, do you think it's annoying to have a steering wheel in front of you when you drive a car? That's basically how it feels. So I know that that's hard to believe, especially for people who've been flying Airbus, who has a big table instead in front of them. But no, it's not annoying. It might be annoying when you're trying to get in and out of the seat, and that's about it. Aviation Guy 530, how do airline pilots do the pre-flight procedure for the 737-800 after the CVDU pre-flight, like the overhead panel fuel pumps? Well, if you want to see that, you can get the playlist inside the Mentour Aviation app, the Dark to Taxi, because I go through every single part of the setup in that, including the FMC setup, the final CDU pre-flight procedure. All of that and the overhead scan, all of that is demonstrated in 360 instructional video inside of the Mentour Aviation app. Now, if you get that playlist now, you also get the engine failure after takeoff playlist for free until Thursday. So I'm doing a sale on that for now because I want as much people as possible to see this. So, your first airline job, what plane? I'm in it. I started off on the 737-800, that was my first job, and I'm still doing it, and I'm still in the same airline 15 years later because I'm really happy with it. Luke Picton, why the name Mentour? That's a great question, actually. Well, obviously it's a play on words. So mentor, pilot, which is the correct spelling, was obviously taken. So I wanted to have something that would indicate both that it was talking about mentoring, which is what I'm trying to do, you know, being positive, constructive, helping people out, and a tour, which is showing stuff. Okay, so I just put those words together and it became Mentour, and I'm working on expanding that to maybe including stuff inside of the channel. For example, a mentor coach, like people who come. I have a friend who's a coach and who does like mental training, how to be positive, how to be strong, how to get your way through. So I'm thinking about expanding into more mentors that can help with more stuff. That's the idea. Okay, more questions here. Oh, have I put down Wednesday instead of Tuesday, is it, on my live stream? Oh yeah, I have actually. Well spotted. I will change that immediately to Tuesday here. There we go. I hope that gets changed. I don't know. I think that was left since my previous live stream actually. Hadi Sinda, would you recommend with or without type-rated pilot? I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Can you clarify that question a little bit? Do you mean whether or not you should be paying for a type rating? Because that's something that I tend to. I have talked about it previously on my live streams, and I have done a video on it. Basically, you have to be very careful if you're going to buy a type rating as part of your training, unless that training leads you up to an airline job. Okay, because it's likely that the operators who are flying aircrafts like the 737 or the Airbus, it's very likely that they will need you to have quite a few hours on type in order to take you in as a direct entry. If not, you're going to have to go through their cadet schemes because that's what their insurers have insured them for. That's what the aviation authorities have approved them for. So they basically said if you're going to take in direct entry pilots, then they need to have a minimum of about, say, 500 hours on type. If you're going to take them from straight out of flight school, but then you have to train them yourselves to make sure that they stay into the standard that is required. Which is why if you have done your training, you have 200 hours and you have a type rating, you might not be able to use that type rating. Okay, and I've seen that happening. It's very, very sad to see. Mike Thompson, I have bad news for you, man. Maria is gone. Okay, she's not going to take part of the Mentor Cadets scheme anymore. She has to focus on her flight training, and I have wished her the best of luck. I hope you all do the same. We'll see. Maybe if she comes back when she's further down her flight training, we can just hope that she does. But for now, she's focusing on making sure that her training goes well. Okay, so I wish you the best of luck if you're watching this, Maria. You've made a fantastic contribution to the channel, and I really hope that you're successful. And I'll see you in the cockpit soon. Lewis Priestley, how often do you fly to Manchester? I work for Swissport on the ground. Actually, I think I might have a Manchester on my roster fairly soon. Let's have a look to see if there's any Manchester coming up here. And see, yes, on the 11th of April next month, I'm going to be in Manchester next time. So make sure that you take care of that flight and we can say hello to each other. Afro Ninja Mentor, do you think that picking an A-level math, physics, business and 3D design are good subjects to take towards becoming a pilot? Yeah, because it includes math and physics, which is what normally the flight schools are asking for. And the rest, business, is always good to have, and 3D design sounds really interesting. So it sounds like a very good subject. Kalle, har du planer om att flyga 787? Do you have plans to fly the 787? Not at the moment, because I'm really happy with my job. I'm really happy with my airline. So I have no plans to change type right now. But in this industry, you never know. You never know when you might need to change airline because of unforeseen circumstances or whatever. So I'm never going to say never. I think that it looks like a fantastic aircraft. I would love to show you guys more about, for example, the 787, the difference for the Airbus 350, things like that. But for now, no, not really. Rob Ross, what's the price of the best headset out there? Well, that depends on what you mean by the best headset. I am using what's considered to be one of the best in the business, which is the Bose A20, and that's about 1,000 or 1,100 euros, so it's quite expensive. But if you're going to use it professionally for many, many years and you want to save your hearing, it's probably a good investment to do. Manas Kalita, which aircraft is the better for initial training? Cessna 172 with the Garmin 1000 or the Diamond DA40? Yeah, well, I've said this before as well. It doesn't really matter what you do your initial training on, okay? As long as the aircrafts are safe, reasonably modern, well maintained, then it doesn't really matter, because what you need to learn at the beginning are the basics: stick and rudder, how to fly the aircraft, understanding meteorology, aerodynamics, basic rules of flight, all of those things. So if you're flying it in a 172 with even the old instrumentation, it's still going to be good. Okay. Now, there is probably a little bit of a benefit to fly with more advanced avionics, because that's what you're going to work with in the airline that you're going to work in. Okay. But from the terms of getting a job afterwards, no one is really going to look what type you did your initial training on. Mr. Tommy MXR, hi Mentor, I am dyslexic. I have troubles reading and understanding things in general. Do you think I have a chance to be an ab initio program from LH? And I should mention this in my application. Well, no. Obviously you have a chance, absolutely everyone has a chance. You might have to work harder than your classmates, but I wouldn't go into, unless it is an actual medical condition, I wouldn't go into mentioning it there. If you are taken in on your application, they're going to do some testing. They need to do some testings on you, and if you are successful with that, then you can go forward. I would, however, recommend that you do aptitude testing before you start your training, so you make sure that you don't pay money for something that you won't be able to complete. That's really important. So do aptitude testing, and if the if the school is not supplying that to you, then you need to do it yourself. All right, that's really, really important. For Hans Meyer, for which airline do you work? Well, I always mention this. I don't mention my employer on here for the simple reason is that that's what we have agreed on. I'm not going to show their logo, their stuff, or talk about them or whatever, because I am not a spokesperson for my airline, and I'm not pretending to be, so I'm only speaking for myself. So I am not mentioning them out of respect both for them and for me. The follows ratio between auto versus manual landing, we covered that already. We do mostly manual landings, very few automatic landings, and we only do automatic landings if it's really necessary from a weather point of view. There seems to be quite a few questions here that's popping up that has been answered already. So guys, if you have already gotten your questions answered, then don't send them in again, guys, because it's just cluttering up the chat, and I don't see the new ones. Let's see, I'm going to take a few questions now from inside of the app, chat. How do Boeing pilots know when to idle the throttles? Is it based on altitude or just feeling? It's a little bit feeling. Okay, the idea is that when you start the flare, you gradually decrease the thrust so that ideally you're touching down just as you close the thrust levels. You shouldn't close the thrust levels prior to that. So that's the ideal. You're coming in, you probably start your flare at about 30 feet or 25 feet or so. If you're coming in with the correct rate as you're flaring, you're slowly closing the thrust levels so that as you touch down, you click the thrust levels down and your idle thrust. So that's the ideal. Then you might have difference depending on if you're coming in with a slightly steeper angle or a slightly shallower angle. You might need to keep the thrust longer or shorter. So it is a lot of feeling involved, which is what we're doing in line training mostly, to get that feeling and to get every landing the same every single time. C. Walter, have you ever met Captain Joe? No, I haven't, but you never know. There might be cool stuff coming. We'll see. Let's see. So guys, if you want your questions answered quickly, then by the way, when I'm not doing my live streams, I'm using this application, the Mentour Aviation application, to answer questions in the app chat. So I go in there on a regular basis when I have time and I answer whatever questions I see. So the idea is that I want to be able to be interactive with you guys all the time, and I'm using the app for that, and there's going to be more of that. If I see that the chat is really, really active, which actually it is, I'm probably going to talk to my developers about extending it, making it bigger. But I need as many users as possible. So guys, what I really need from you, and this is a plea from me, okay? If you know of any forums, if you know of any Facebook groups, or anything that you think would benefit from using this app, I want as many app users as possible. And that's not because I want to sell more, it's because I want a big user group. Because with a big user group, I can do a lot more. And maybe I can get, for example, flight schools or airlines or something to go in and sponsor, because there's a big group of you out there. So, the promo video that I put out on Facebook, and that Live from the Flight Deck also put out on Facebook, which was great. You can use that. Please take that one and share it on Facebook to whatever group that you think that might be interested in it, or just share what you think about it. And like I said, write reviews, hopefully positive reviews, because that also helped me to spread the word about the app. Right, more questions. I see there's no more questions coming off the super chat. If you have any questions that I haven't answered and you want me to answer them, then please go and just go in through the super chat, and I will see them popping up there. The Flight Sim channel, great to have you here. By the way, you guys, if you share this out, that would be great as well. How would you rate balance of family life to work? Being based away has its downsides, but I hope you manage okay. Really hope everything's going well for your mentor and the app is great. Thank you very much. It's actually working quite well, and this is my last week away now. From next week, I'm going to be based back in Girona, where I'm based, and I'm going to be flying much more, so I'm going to be much more at home. But actually, I've been on a quite good roster for the winter, so I have been able to spend a lot of time with my family. But I'm not going to say anything else that being away especially from the kids and my wife for 5 days straight, it actually is tough. You do miss them, and it's not a great feeling. So I understand all of the people doing long haul, for example, that are away for weeks and weeks at a time. It does become hard at the end. Hi Apple, hello mentor, greetings from Sweden. Hey. One question, I have great grades in college or gymnasium. I'm wondering if my grades will help me to get into a government sponsored program. Yeah, I think it does. I think it still does. Okay, so there is the TFOS, and you can go to Scandinavian Aviation Academy. They have a sponsored program as well, and I do believe that the first selection there is based on your grades. So the fact that you have good grades is going to help. Good work. Albert E. Weichel, when and how will you get your uniform? Well, you will normally get your uniform in connection with your employment. So if you get your employment, then you will get your uniform, and it differs, depending on what airline you're in. But yeah, before you start going online, before passengers start seeing you, you have to have a uniform, and you have to take good care of your uniform, guys, and you have to wear it with pride. It's really important, and it's a great tool, which I've actually covered in some of my older videos. Go and have a look at that, actually. Uniforms. It's an old video, but it's still valid. Send it in. What is your favorite holiday destination? I love going to Thailand. because I really love the food and I love the people over there. They're really friendly. Weather is great. I don't like to go to the big touristy places. I like to go a little bit outside. And my wife likes it as well, and my kids obviously. So Thailand's probably one of my favorite. But I like going to. I used to like going to the States. I think it's changing a little bit the feeling of the States at the moment. But I would love to go to Los Angeles, down to San Diego, up to Las Vegas, and to San Francisco. I haven't been to San Francisco, and I would love to do that. I'm not answering the super chat. What do you mean? Let's see. I have answered the super chat. All of the questions that I see on the super chat have been answered, I think, because I can't see anymore. I only have the last question I have on the super chat is, do pilots pay for accommodation when they work, which I did answer. So if I haven't done, please tell me so, because I think that I'm answering all of the super chat messages. At least that is definitely what I'm trying to do. Jalil Kennelly, you should go to Jamaica. I would love to go to Jamaica. My wife has been to Jamaica. She says it is beautiful. That's one of the most precious holiday destinations she's ever been to. So guys, if you know any cheap accommodation there, or they want mentor pilots turning up, then let me know. Hello, Enter. Halfway through my career, would I change from being from Boeing to Airbus, or the other way around? Well, that depends on where you're employed to start with. So, you know, like I said before, when it comes to changing types, that normally has more to do with the airline employment than with what you wish to do. So if your company has Boeing and they change to Airbus, well, then you're going to change. If you change an airline, you're going to do whatever type they have in that new airline. So it's very little about choosing. It's very much about just doing what you're told when it comes to the aircraft types. David Coolish, what grades do I need to have to get into the government-sponsored program in Sweden? I have C in average. I don't know exactly what C stands for anymore, because we had the MVG, VG, and G when I went ages ago. But all of that you will find if you go to Scandinavian Aviation Academy's homepage. I think they have quite a good guidance on how you can apply and what kind of grades and stuff are needed in there. So check that out. So Mr. Savigard, still on the chat here. A research group at the University of California has found recently that sitting down for more than 10 hours a day can take 8 years off your life. Isn't that a worry for pilots? Yes, probably is. But you don't have to sit down all the time. You can actually get up. You know, during cruise, you can go to the toilet, you can stretch your legs and stuff like that. But this is why I'm telling you that it's really important that you keep yourself fit. And you have a lot of off days. So during those off days, you should be exercising. Go for walks. Go for a run, or go to the gym, or do stuff. You know, make sure that you keep your body in check, because there is a lot of sitting down in this work. Right, I'm only going to take a few more questions, guys, because I'm coming up to 45 minutes of talking, which means that my throat is getting a little bit dry. And super chat question, okay? So I don't see you in the super chat question here, but I can answer it anyway. Do you think it's more beneficial to do our building in Europe or America? People say it's easy and cheap in America, but better experience, more challenging, but more expensive in Europe. That's probably true. Like I said, all hours are good hours, so you can probably get quite challenging conditions in the States as well. It might be a much more busy airspace, for example, things like that. So I wouldn't really worry too much about that. Just get the hours where you can get them cheaply. And I don't know if there's any more. No, there's no more questions in the super chat. So let's see. I'll take another few here. Sub-001, Mentor, how does the nose wheel of the plane manage to force itself upwards when you rotate the aircraft? I don't really understand that question. So do you mean when you're actually retracting it? Because that's hydraulics. So it's being pulled up by hydraulics. But otherwise, it doesn't move. You know, it's just there and has a damper on it. And when you take off, obviously that damper extends, and then you retract it using hydraulics. Christopher Waltersdorf, how old were you when you became a pilot? I started off when I was 20, and I'm 35 now, so I've been doing it for 15 years. Um, David Foolish, are there any government training for ATC in Sweden, and does the training cost money? Yes, I believe that there is quite good ATC training in Sweden, and I do think that is sponsored by the state as well, so you have to pay for accommodation and books and stuff like that, but the training in itself, I believe, once you've been accepted to it, is free. David Stallas, what was your Porsche model? It was a 911. It was a 997 4S. Okay, beautiful, beautiful car, and I'm looking forward to buying another one as soon as you know I'm out of this phase of my life. Yeah, I can't stop them from clanging dishes because I'm basically sitting in their kitchen. So you know, they gave me this because this is the best internet connection in the whole hotel. But I can't tell them to stop clanging dishes because that would be rude. But I'm going to finish off now very soon anyway. Does flying internationally earn significantly more money than flying domestic? In most cases, yes. It tends to be the bigger airlines that fly internationally. They tend to pay better. There's no set rule for that. In some cases, you might have a company that pays really good for their domestic flyers as well. But like regional airlines tend to have slightly lower salary than the international airlines. And when they come up to the transatlantic, like the long haul airlines, they tend to pay even better as well. Monarch guy, how do you line up with the runway? Well, we use a tiller on the side. Basically, it's like a little steering wheel, but it's sitting on the side of the captain, and you use that to steer the nose wheel. So you overshoot the center line a little bit, and when you see that the center line is up to your left, you kind of move over. So it's something that also takes a bit of training, which is part of your command training when you're getting that far. Hacker known as 9gag. Hi 9gag. Yeah, I'm sorry that you came in a little bit late, but if you have a question, then kick it off now. I still have a few minutes before I have to go. Mythos 2 Alpha, I recently got a job on the 737, which is one of Europe's largest airlines. Just wanted to let you know that your videos have helped me an awful lot since the beginning. That's great to hear, guys. This is why this is called the Mentor channel. I really want to help you with as much as I can. But remember that when you get your job, it's because you have achieved that. It's not because of me, it's because you have achieved that. You've been working hard towards that goal. So I can only congratulate you. It's great to hear, and I hope that a lot of you guys, or all of you guys are watching this, are succeeding with your life goals. Absolutely great. So, Nathan Vermeulen, hello Mentor. Are the pilots really regarding if an airline has Airbus or Boeing when they're looking for a job? No. There's something that you think that you're looking into before you start your training, and then you do your training and you realize that you're going to get whatever job that is out there. So no, they don't care. It's as easy as that. At the end, when you're trained and ready, you will take whatever airline job that is offered to you. Smith Usher 02, have you been in a really bad situation when flying, like jet intercept stalls or something? No. If you follow the SOPs, in most cases, unless you have some kind of really bad technical malfunction, you never get yourself into those kind of situations, which is why it's so important to respect and follow your standard operating procedures, okay? Because that help you from getting a PLOC event, which is what I talked about in my previous video, which also, of course, then helps you from becoming intercepted, which is not something you want. Stalls, in order to get into a stall with a 737, you have to, there's about 9 different warnings that you'll get from the aircraft before you reach a stall. So you have to be seriously not paying attention to get into a stall, unless it's caused by a jet upset of some sort, wake turbulence or a wind shear. And by the way, I'm working on an update on the Mentor 360 app. So those of you who have the Mentor 360 app, I'm going to make that available for iPad very soon, as in actually made for iPad, not just an iPhone app on an iPad, but an iPad app. It's going to have the same videos in there, because all new videos that I'm creating is going into the Mentour Aviation app, because that's the app that I can actually upgrade. But it's going to have a much better looking icon, and it's going to have bug fixes for the small bugs that we've noticed during the year. So the Mentor 360 app also has some very good training videos in there, so combine them, get that if you're getting the Mentor Aviation app, and you're helping the channel a lot. Okay guys, I'm going to take the last question now. Um, yeah, have a glass of water. No, I'm running out. I need to get something to eat, and actually I need to go to sleep because I'm getting up at 4:30 tomorrow morning to go for my last simulator session before I fly back to Barcelona. So guys, if you have a question that you really want me to answer, then please send it in the super chat now, because I'll be waiting another minute or so, and then I'll be going off to get something to eat before I go to sleep. Jake, where are you? I am in London. I'm in Hilton. Um, I'm in the restaurant in Hilton. I've basically taken over a part of the restaurant in order to do this live stream, which also is a reason that I have to go before they actually kick me out of here. Michael Samo, how do non-EU citizens work in Europe as a pilot? Well, you're going to need a visa for that. You're going to need to go to your consulate, see if you can get a permanent work permit in the EU and a permanent right to live, and you need that in order to work inside of the EU. Right, guys, that seems to be it. Once again, get the Mentour Aviation app. It's completely free. There are stuff in there that you can buy, but there's loads of playlists and stuff that is for free. The chat is free. All of that is free. So I want as many users as humanly possible. So please get in there, check it out, give it a review on the App Store, and share it with your aviation friends, because I want to create a community of people that help each other out, so that you can ask questions to each other, get answers, stuff like that. For now, I wish you a really, really great evening, and I'll see you next time. I'll probably do another live stream, maybe this Friday or during the weekend. And also, I'm going to release a new Mentor Cadet video from Diffrig. He has a little bit of news for you guys, so the diff video is going to be released very soon. It's already available inside of the app, by the way. And if you really feel like you want to, that you like the work and you want to see more stuff coming up, and you want to help out, actively helping out, then go into Patreon, www.patreon.com/mentorpilot, and you can join my Patreon crew there. I send out all my videos to them so that they can preview them, come with more suggestions about what I should do if a video is not good enough or if it's really good, or if they want something that want me to do a video of something, then they can send that to me immediately. And there's some other stuff in there as well. So check that out, and for now, have a absolutely fantastic evening, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.